You're listening to the Classic Gamers Guild podcast.
This makes my nipples hard.
Hey there, friends. We are back with another Sierra Comparison episode. Finally, yay! And Paul, what game is it we are talking about today?
I didn't know if I wanted to commit to that, so I came in late, and the whole thing is regrettable.
We're leaving it in. It's happening.
Because in my head, I'm like, wait, can you make that bear noise? Have we ever tried this out loud? And it's not good. It's not great.
Yeah,
we also had like a little
hard one to do.
Yeah, nah. We also had like a little pre-planned sketchy thing.
Mm-hmm. It's like in Mexico, they do that everywhere. Ooh, ooh.
That was more like 90s Euro dance song. Like, but we had this whole like bit like sketch thing we had worked out where I was going to interrupt you with something. Or no, you were going to leave silence and I was going to do something, but now I forgot it. Like a game show host. Okay,
you were going to tell them what the episode's about.
Oh, right. Because it's the beginning of the show. That's fair. Okay. Mm-hmm. I am. Okay, so welcome, guys. Was that what I was going to do? This is not going well.
I said it was a comparison episode.
Right. And we are comparing King's Quests. So some of the King's Quests are on display for comparison. We are there are too many King's Quests, first of all. So let me get this out of the way. We are comparing the AGI version. Which one, you ask, nerdily? Well, we're going to go with the 1987, like the staple, your most common King's Quest, the 1987 IBM release it's in. If you bought it on Steam, this is that one. And we're going to compare that to the SCI version, which was made in 1990, also by Sierra. So that's, nerdily speaking, what we're doing.
Is it? Oh, did the other one come out so late? Because King's Quest 2 came out in 85 and King's Quest 3 came out in 86. And then King's Quest 1 came out again in 87?
Yeah, 87's like the main PC version. Like the original King's Quest AGI. I should have said, well, Anna, it's funny that you ask.
Because we totally planned my confusion, too.
Exactly. I just blew the setup, gang. She knows what's going on here. Because we were just, before we got on the air, literally fighting about whether or not it came out in 83 or 84. We'll get into that later. It was as vicious as everyone can imagine. A fight between us would have been.
We're so
with her
hardcore.
Canadian politeness and
maple syrup was thrown.
It was. I told her and her entire nation to just calm the fuck down with maple-related products. Like, it's just dominating your lifestyle and how we look at you. Relax. It is delicious. Okay, all right. Okay, so the PC Junior version came out in 83, 84. That's what we'll fight about later. But I'm saying we're not going to go over that one because that one it's barely different, but it's harder to play because it's a boot disc one, and you can play it. As a matter of fact, check out our friend Space Quest Historian, his hilarious and awesome series on the King's Quest games. When he does his first video in the series is King's Quest 1, obviously, and he plays the booter version there, the 83, 84 PC Junior boot disc version. Trolls plays that in that video. We're going to go based on the 87 one because that's the version that most people would have played and can buy today.
Right. And then the VGA version, which totally forgot, was kind of like a cross between King's Quest 4 and Heroes Quest 1, which, I mean, with the dithering and the sound effects and the looks of it it's right smack dab in that time period.
Mm-hmm. It is smack dab.
So it was so good. Mm-hmm. Smack dab, satisfyingly so, because I was like, I recognize that sound effect, or it was just cool.
Where does smack dab come from, you think? That's a weird one. Smack dab.
It is a weird one.
All right, well, all this and more.
Sounds like a game you'd play in a Robin Hood game or something.
Right.
Like, I'm going to go play smack dab.
Fucking all these mini games and arcade sequences. Okay, look, we're gonna go through this. Okay, here's what come on, guys, let's get it together. Let's huddle up here. Here's what we're doing. Listen. Here's the score. We're gonna go through King's Quest, on a story-based timeline, and we'll just as we go through it on the story-based timeline, we'll talk about the primarily the AGI and SCI versions, but we've done too much homework. I can already tell this is one of those episodes when it's over, we'll have not mentioned most of the stuff on our notes and everything because it's just but we have looked into the Sega version. That's right, there's a Sega version if you're just now hearing that for the first time. I imagine listeners of our show already know that, but maybe for the two of you that didn't, they actually put it on Sega for some reason. And then, Anna played some of the Apple version. I played some of the AGD version. That's a lie. I watched somebody else play it, but it's more or less the same thing. And we're going to talk about it all, starting now.
Perfect. So when I went and played it, I didn't realize, I was just like, I'm going to pick an early version. So I picked the Apple AGI version that had no speed control. So you couldn't make yourself go faster or slower. It's just where the option is on the menu. There wasn't. And the sound effect for the water was not toned down the way that they managed the sound effect for the water in the 1987 version. It was sort of like a wild cacophony of sounds that was just, I meant to send you a recording of it. It was pretty wild, but it was slower paced, and but it was a lot easier to play in some versions than the remake from 1990, because a lot of the time sequences were a lot simpler in the original.
Right.
The original. I went back after doing this and I played the 1987 version because I have a copy of that as well. And it was a little bit nicer because you could change the speed, although changing it to faster was a tiny bit faster than comfortable. Anyway.
Right. It feels like out of control. Yeah. Like it's constantly getting ahead of you. Mm-hmm. And there are I just learned today, there's hotkeys for swimming and stuff like that you can press because when the speed's all the way up, sometimes you can't type swim fast enough to not drown. But there are little hotkeys for that stuff, I guess, apparently. But like you said, I don't like it all the way up. It feels reckless. Everything's out of control.
I'm not a speedrunner, man, but I do like F3. I use F3 a lot, or the spacebar in the remake, just to bring up the last command. So F3 always, I have my F3 loaded because it doesn't pause to let you do things in the original version.
Exactly. Hey, how did you like that arrow-based navigation?
I used the diagonal key and was pleasantly surprised to find out that it worked.
Very nice. Very cool. But how could you see yourself using arrows more? Say if a modern game offered arrow control?
I used arrow control in my gameplay for the game. I'm actually a numpad user for King's Quest games, and I always have been.
Very cool. The arrows in this are dope. I like some arrow-based control. All right, I'm sorry.
Paul, could you explain why it is that you'd be interested in arrow control?
Because nobody plays my game using the arrows. Damn it! It's so much better that way. No, it's fine. You don't have a choice in King's Quest. Obviously, there's. Okay, so let's clear the air here, Anna, for our listeners. He says generically. Because most of the other Sierra remakes, so if for anybody that even sees the thumbnails for our episodes, which would be on our socials, it usually says EGA versus VGA. But this thumbnail says AGI versus SCI because both of these versions are in EGA. That was a painful way of getting there. I'm sorry. I felt like I was talking down to everybody the whole time. But it doesn't matter because we're there. So the point being is that both of these games are in EGA, which is weird because it's the... is it? Yes, this is the only remake that's the case, where the remake is still limited to EGA.
Right, and it was met with controversy when they did the remake. Reviewers are saying, "You're trying to make it into something that it isn't, and it doesn't even need to be. Like, why are you remaking the classics?" And I think they got a lot of flack for that. And over time, people started to look forward to their remakes, I think, and they gained more popularity.
I agree and I disagree. I agree with the overall sentiment, but I think that oddly enough that Sierra is still the exception. I still don't think people really like their remakes, like even Sierra fans. I was looking around on some really old forum posts and stuff online, and one of them was just somebody asking the question of what people thought about the remakes, and it's a largely negative reception to this day with the Sierra remakes. I don't know why, but then because you bring up a good point, if you really think about it from the time period perspective, like this is like one of the original remasters. Like they remastered their own game 7 or 8 years after it came out. No, 7 or 6 years after it came out, and it's really, I think that's really cool, and it's really like accepted nowadays. Like there's a Red Dead 1 remaster available I just saw the other day, or you know what I mean? Like it's a common thing nowadays to just like, yeah, I don't know, remaster it and put it back out. Everybody loves when like LucasArts remastered their games, and Sierra just remastered it. They brought it as current as it could have been brought for 1990.
Exactly. Like they put in more music, they put in more sound effects, they upped the ante, they made it a little bit prettier. And like I said, it does hit me in the feels because it looks like other games I liked in that era, even though, again, I did find that it made it not necessarily easier.
No, it did not. That's where the AGD interactive version comes in, the actual VGA remake, as we'll call it. This is it's kind of confusing. I hope we're laying it out slightly clear enough. But AGD did a remake of Quest for the Crown in VGA. And it's for free to download. Go to AGD Interactive, and you can grab. I think I know they also remake King's Quest 3, and you can get some other work there. It's absolutely gorgeous. It has like Conquest of the Longbow kind of vibe, or Quest for Glory 1 remake vibe,
or
like
King's Quest 5.
Yes, boy, I feel argumentative today, I guess, because my knee jerk was to just be like, no.
Even the title screen is the same one they use in King's Quest 5. The graphics, like Graham with the feather in his hat, it's all like it's King's Quest 5 to the nth degree.
It's literally the same sprite as King's Quest 5, is it not? Yeah.
Yeah.
But still, no. King's Quest 5, this is because you made me think now, didn't King's Quest 5 come out in 1990? Yeah, it did.
Yeah, let's see.
So how did
King's Quest 1, 2, 3? I have the official documents in front of me. Yes, November of 1990.
And the remake, it was also 1990.
Yes, that is true.
That's quite odd, right? Because I mean, I know King's Quest 5 broke a ton of ground for Sierra, including with point and click and CD-ROM and all kinds of cool stuff they had going on with this game, being the flagship title. But it's odd that this game came out the same year, and it's still SCI 0.
It's like, well, Quest for Glory came out in either 90 or 91, and it's also done in this style. So I guess they were doing a little bit of experimentation. But yeah, Quest for Glory, it came out in 89.
Okay. And that was SCI 0 as well, I believe, right?
Yeah, it's exactly the same, yeah.
Okay. As opposed to AGI, sorry. Because Gold Rush is 89, but that's in AGI. But Gold Rush was in development for like a really long time, which is why that was the case. Okay, anyway, we're out nerding ourselves here. Let's
carry on a little bit. So anyways, either way, no matter which version you play, you end up starting out on some side or the other of a castle with a king inside. Right.
Let's do this. Let's go story based. So the beginning of the game, you have King Edward's concern. This is just so phew, man, words are hard. Listen, in the beginning of the game, King Edward is like, hey, I volunteer you to do this thing. And you're like,
but you have to bow first, otherwise you don't get extra points.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, you gotta bow first.
There's nothing to indicate because you can just like randomly start talking to him and everything's okay and it doesn't stop you. You just wonder at the end of the game, how come I didn't get those points?
Right, because you didn't bow to your lord. I guess that's a weird thing, right? That's okay. Well, anyway, enough political talk. I don't know how it's political. We could force it to be political with the monarchies and whatever, but that's no fun at all. So King Edward volunteers you to do this thing in the SCI version anyway. Okay, so like here's the deal. I think throughout this whole episode, I'm going to be more familiar with the SCI version, and Anna's going to be a little more familiar with the AGI, just based on how we did our homework. So I don't know if it's in the AGI version, But in the SCI version, the king's like, I volunteer you to do this. And you're just like, that is not how volunteering works. You can't burden somebody with you know what I mean? Like, to volunteer, you have to...
Voluntold.
Yeah. So the king's like, but I volunteer you. And you're like, wow, that's not how that works. But anyway, regardless, the king's dying, all your magical... A lot of magical stuff. Too many magical things, I would argue, for this kingdom. Like, they just...
You need to tone it down.
Yeah, it's like there's a real kind of Wakanda vibe going on. Like, man, it sure is a lot of just awesome stuff in this one desolate location, but or
Fairies,
isolated.
everybody knows who you are. You know, dwarves that make an income off of stealing, but nobody else is ever there.
Right.
It's
well,
lot.
There is the one poor couple, and we all know why they got so poor. Those goddamn dwarves. I hope are we allowed to say dwarf? Is that cool?
Well, it's a game character. What are you going to say? Vertically challenged member of the King's Quest game franchise. That sounds more offensive.
It did somehow. No, it did. I got that too. Right. Okay, so anyway, the King's... Look, you guys know King's Quest probably, and if you don't, you do, because it's just a bunch of other stories thrown into this one story, where it's like, hodgepodge of fairy tales, and knowing fairy tales will help. Like I didn't know the Billy Gruff story so good. I didn't know it.
Oh.
I didn't know it well enough to where when the game's like, everybody knows that bridge trolls hate goats, and I'm just like, really? Are you doing... You just gaslighting us into that? Like, everybody knows. You're not stupid, are you? No, I'm not stupid. I know that too. But but they had a real reason. It is from a beloved fairy tale. Anyway, you head off on your mission. So in the AGI version, well, I guess in both versions. Now you're outside of the castle, where you spot one of the original differences, which is that there's no more alligators. In the SCI version, you get a big river snake monster, and he is adorable. He's got the cutest little face and these little gremlin teeth, and he's like, I'm going to get you. And you're like, I know you will. Like, I'll eventually misstep. But anyway, when you see the first screen outside in the King's Quest 1 remake, it's absolutely gorgeous.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the dithering, man. So much dithering.
It's really good looking. Like, it's just a really, like, it's I don't know. I think all my nostalgia comes from that SCI 0 era. So like everything just in that, King's Quest 4-esque art, Space Quest 3, like that whole era is just, man, just hits all the right notes. Looks
almost
so
as if you'd enjoy Quest for Glory 1.
Almost, yeah. We'll never know. I'm kidding. I'm sorry. Okay. Anyway. So here, you take over. I've been saying too many words. What do we do next on the mission? We're outside. Now we're looking left. We're looking right.
Well, there's like this stump if we go out on the left-hand side that if you push it, you can get something like a dagger from inside a hole in the ground, which is super convenient. And I think in one of the versions, the earlier ones, if you're standing on the wrong side, when you push it, you can fall in the hole, which is funny to me because it would be a pretty shallow hole. It's got a dagger in it, right?
Oh, right. That's interesting. Like, if you could reach down and grab a knife, how could you die from falling in it? That sounds like a huge oversight. What the fuck were they thinking?
And then, there's like carrots, but you're not. This is the game where they first start teaching you that you can try to eat anything you want, but you might screw yourself over if you do.
Yeah, you can do a lot of what you want and die for it.
So now that we've been voluntold what we need to do, we've got to venture out into this like wide world and start like mucking about, like looking. I have looked in every log hollow in every game I've ever played since playing games in this series. I'm assuming every hole in a tree, every hollow, every rock, you've got to be able to push it. If there's rocks on the ground, you've got to be able to pick it. And it's always a little bit arbitrary. Sometimes games like this are like, pick the flowers, obviously. And then other times it's like, why would you pick the flowers? They're so beautiful. But you've always got to try. So basically that's what you're doing at first. You're going out there and then like a lot of the things that happen in this game are on randomizers. So you might encounter a character or you might not encounter a character. And kind of, it's fun, right? It's just, it throws you out into this world, and it's just kind of like figure it out. And the only thing that we were able to do back in the day of these games was to pull out an instruction booklet and be like, okay, sometimes it would give you a little bit of a walkthrough, or it would at least give you the commands you could use, like talk or walk, so that you could base everything you do off of it. But it was really just okay, go on out the door. There you go, buddy. Give it a go.
Yeah.
You've been told.
It just immediately creates that Sierra open world vibe that makes you want to see all the text. Like even the first one, sorry, that's not helpful. Even the AGI one, like it's either way. Graphically, man, why suddenly these words are very hard. Graphics aside, either version, as soon as you're set free, you have this whole world that you want to explore and look at everything and touch everything, and just you could see like the birth of that Sierra kind of magic starting with this game, and even more so with the SCI version, in my opinion, just because it's more visually appealing. So it's like I don't know, a lot of people are super diehard about liking the AGI version better, and I would say show me one of them that chooses that without nostalgia for it. Because it's like, dude, fair enough. If you just love King's Quest AGI because that's the one you played, like nothing is in a game of like rock paper scissors or rock paper nostalgia. Sorry guys, nothing beats nostalgia. Like every nostalgia is always gonna win. Whatever gives you that like, you know, warm little feeling. So it's like, of course you would like AGI better if that's the first one you played, as is the case with most people. Like most people were introduced to King's Quest through the AGI version. But I'm just saying, if you're not nostalgic for King's Quest, like I'm not, it's a tough argument for AGI. Like the SCI version is it's not only way better looking, but it's really good looking just on its own. Like it's a gorgeous game. It's one of my biggest takeaways from this little playthrough is that it's among the most graphically underrated Sierra game. And I think it's because it's just thrown aside, as we've discovered in this whole series of comparisons, that the remakes, time has not been good to them. Really, it has nothing to do with time, because they weren't received well initially either. It's like nobody's just ever liked them, period. But if you really look back from a non-biased point of view, and again, when I say biasm, I really just mean from a non-nostalgic point of view, it's just a way better looking game that does the exact same things with like a few little differences that we will
like
obviously
it
be getting
pauses
into.
when you type. That's the biggest thing. What made King's Quest 1, the initial game, so bloody intimidating for me is the fact that it didn't pause when typing. And in the remake, it does.
Right. That's our age-old argument. Because again, if it lets you, if it pauses when you type, then it's less panicky. For anybody listening who's played the AGI version, just imagine like trying to frantically type in swim, and it's like the clock's against you, and then you typed in SWIB by accident, so you got to and just that feeling of panic. But it is nice in the other sense. I think the Gold Rush a lot when it comes to this, where it's like you can type in the command from the left side of the screen as you're walking to the right, and like it gives that OCD something to do. But
it does. No waiting in between times. It does fill the time. You're right about that. Good call, Paul.
But I will say, with that gone, when it pauses for it to type, you can now use that time for snacks instead. So SCI 0 for the win there again.
I did feel after playing the AGI version, when I started playing the SCI version, I kept typing too early. So I had to cancel it out and re-put it up again, because it's like, oh, you're not standing close enough, because I was so used to typing the stuff early and not waiting that extra 3 seconds.
Right. That's a good call. Yeah, I could see doing that, especially doing homework for these shows too. For anybody listening, it's even more understandable when you've just played both of them back to back, and the brain has to take a second to switch gears on. Okay, so our quest has begun, Anna.
Yes.
Graham you might even say we're embarking on it at this point. This is the part of the quest that we embark on. What did you do first? We've got the magic mirror, the enchanted shield, the chest of gold. What are we knocking out first here?
I did the magic mirror first. So I went down, because you got a knife and you have to go down into the well. You can do some swimming. It's like a whole big adventure. And okay, here's what I found out. When I was trying to get back out of the well in the AGI version, I could jump to my heart's content, but it wouldn't let me go out that way. I had to follow the dragon to leave. which we can talk about in a second. And then in the remake version, I was able to jump right back on and climb the rope up, no problem.
Right. Just like tiny little, yeah. Okay, well, let's do this. Let's walk through the magic mirror puzzle if we can. And I don't know that I can.
Because it has multiple solutions. You can either like vanquish the dragon, like hurt it. I think you slingshot at it, or you can throw a bucket of water on it and it gets so embarrassed that you blew out its fire that it just wanders away all sad.
Oh, I hate that one. Okay. Or you can wear it out.
Is there a wearing out one? I didn't know that one.
That's what I did with the giant, right? In the land of the clouds, whatever.
Oh, that could work too. I was talking about the dragon down in the cave in the well.
Oh, right. See, you know what it is? They're both large.
They are both large. The giant, yeah, you have to wear him out. You have to wait him out, and eventually he'll just fall asleep like against a tree, which is somewhat different than the giant in King's Quest IV, because he fell asleep at the table. And he was more of an ogre, I guess, but same story. Giants, the chicken that lays the golden eggs. It was initially a giant, Jack and the Beanstalk. It's kind of really a whole collaboration of fairy tales mismatched, but fun.
Well, it's funny you should say that because Roberta Williams would later come out with mixed up fairies.
Oh God! And that's in the King's Quest collection series that I have sitting next to me here. It's got mixed up Mother Goose in it as well.
Speaking to the power of nostalgia, like Roberta was nostalgic for these stories, and boy, does that show! I mean, she's like, she wasn't satisfied with all the King's Quest games. She's like, we need to do mixed up fairy tales, and then throw in another one for good measure. Mixed up Mother Goose,
right?
Which is
it's
just
true.
Mixed up fairy tales.
Because I had
fairy tales. Sorry,
I had friends internationally that had that problem with the game, that said we didn't know any of the traditional American fairy tales, so a lot of the things that might have had clues to be slightly more obvious, we just had to discover through rote, like going places and clicking things and typing things.
Right, almost like see, that's weird though, because I feel like all the American fairy tales are like Germanic in origin and shit. You know what I mean? Like we don't have any like American fairy tales. It's not old enough for that. You know what I mean? Like all of even our weird little like songs in the playground that we sing, like it always comes, well, I guess maybe they're saying they don't know British, like English fairy tales, because that's fair enough. But otherwise,
it could be that. But yeah, it's a big place. Daventry is huge. It's divided up into two sections. You've actually got West Daventry and East Daventry. So from like the lake is the divide of where the Daventrys intersect, just down in the center. And then the witch's house is on one side and the sorcerer's on the other. That's your divided layout. I love maps.
Yeah. I love a good hand-drawn map as well. Shout out to Brian Destifine, who actually made one of day 2 of my game for me, which was surreal and awesome. Well, one thing I need to redact what I said earlier about hate that with the putting the fire out thing, because I was confused. I didn't know it was the dragon. That makes sense in that context. I thought because it was like nice. the giant gets embarrassed because he put out his... Like, I was very confused. I don't know why I'm bringing that back up. That was a mistake.
Putting out the giant cigar, and he got quite upset.
Yeah, exactly. Damn, where's my can? Doesn't matter. All right. Okay, so let's just say we got the magic mirror. Is there anything surrounding the magic mirror that you specifically want to cover? Difference-wise?
Difference-wise? Oh, just the looks of it. I mean, the magic mirror is way more obvious in the SEI version. It's much more magical. Just sitting right there. It's big. It's like glinty. It's glinty. All of these things. Nice in the other version, it's like, oh, what's that thing sort of over there in the corner? Should I look at it? Should I pick it up? It's not everything's as obvious. Like it's that much easier to just kind of accidentally miss stuff.
Right. Wait, it's easier to miss stuff in the SCI version?
No, in the AGI version, because it's just so much more primitive.
Yeah, it's primitive.
And they did some rearranging, like, for example, where Rumpelstiltskin is. He's on the other side of the screen, just little things. Right.
Yeah, I agree to that completely. Okay, so we've got the mirror. I don't think I have any... I actually do have a bunch of notes. I think I'm rushing us past the mirror because I have nothing on it at all. I got your Rumpelstiltskin notes, some Beanstalk stuff, some Woodcutter's Wife stuff, even some King Edward stuff. But I have nothing on the dragon itself, except for it's just Again, it
There's
looks
no
better.
forced order. You can get picked up by the bird whenever you want instead. Like that was the trickiest in the AGI version because I had to type jump like 10 times to finally jump in the right place for the bird to get me. It's not exactly intuitive, and it was way easier. The bird just like picks you right up super easy in the remake.
Right, even though jumping is easier in the remake, but you don't really
Yeah.
need to utilize that. Good old
Yeah.
F4.
Mm-hmm.
I was testing the game. When you step outside of the castle in the SCI version, it shows your reflection, which I was super impressed by. And I was like, I wonder if they accounted for jumping in front of the reflection, and they sure did. It was awesome.
Well, there used to be a keyboard overlay for the original, which is awfully hard to come by nowadays, but it told you all of those little shortcuts and things.
Right. Yeah, that's like as sought after as the Willy Beamish watch. Just one of those white whales.
I have the Willy Beamish stickers, but no watch.
Right, that's good though. Man, the cliffs in this game, I was looking at the screenshot, the cliffs are awesome. They have this like Cliffs of Dover kind of vibe to them, like very slate rock looking. It's such a pretty game. All right, well, after the magic mirror, then we're going for the enchanted shield. It turns out, so we got to outsmart some leprechauns.
I like this one. It was actually absolutely adorable. I liked it so much when I was watching the dance of the leprechauns because you get to play a fiddle for the group of them. And the king was doing this like doop, doop, with his like staff doing this like really awesome dance before he clears the room.
Yes, yeah. The remake has the most adorable. You're right. The animation where he mixes. It's just like the staff thing, like you said. Whatever he's like hitting the staff on the beat, and it doesn't sound amazing. Matter of fact, the sounds in the SCI version are super weird.
And
kind
they're
of jarring.
all a little weird. They are, but and you don't get to see that whole dance in the original because it's just the throne room's empty because you played the fiddle, and you just have to assume everybody left.
Right, they poof off. Yeah, I was looking at videos for this episode too, and everybody was giving Graham a hard time, but the leprechauns, they stole the thing to begin with, right? They stole the shield. We're just taking our kingdom's property back.
It's true.
Yeah, so take that, unnamed YouTubers.
Yeah,
They're the ones that stole the fucking thing. Don't start no shit, won't be no shit.
It's true. And then they encourage the use of taking magic mushrooms. Like, what are they trying to say?
Definitely to take magic mushrooms. That is, I think, clearly what they're trying to say.
It must be an homage to like Alice in Wonderland because you have to like pick this mushroom and then you eat it so you can shrink.
Right, and in the AGD VGA film, it's just too many acronyms this whole episode.
Yeah.
In the VGA remake, they play a Super Mario sound, which was welcome, frankly.
I like how you can like fall off of anything and die, but when like this giant bird drops you from out of the sky, it's such a loud force that you hit in the remake, the SCI, that there's like literally shining yellow ouch marks around you, but you're fine.
Yeah, but you're fine. It just goes to show you they don't understand falling, I guess, in any regard.
Well, that's like in cartoons, right? They don't know that they're falling until they look down and realize there's no ground underneath them.
Right. Yeah, okay. Another thought that comes to mind, too, is that this episode, not in a bad way, has a weird vibe to it compared to our other comparison versions, and I think it just hit me why. There's not a lot of differences, and that's not a cop-out. We will say all of the differences that there possibly are, even if we just shoehorn them in at the end. We will prove that we've done our homework and such, no matter how on the nose it is that we're proving it. But the point being is that this, out of all the remakes, I find this one to be almost the most remaster than remake. It's really just a better looking version. There's just a very slightly less dead end Walking Dead problems with it. Not as many as you'd think. Like, you'd think they would have fixed all of them, especially by 1990. Well, disregard this. There's a slightly longer intro with King Edwards, and there's a slightly longer outro. But like there's not a whole lot different with this game, and I just need to clear the air with that now, because as we're like halfway through our timeline list, and it's like we haven't mentioned a ton of differences, and I guess I'm just clarifying for everybody listening that there isn't a whole lot of differences outside of the visuals.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. It's a really true to life remake, and other than adding a bit of extra flair here and there and a bit of extra humor, it's essentially the same game, but prettier and a little bit trickier. Again, with the any kind of time sequence, I found like pushing the witch of the gingerbread house, because there's like this gingerbread house which you can eat, by the way, which is great, but you have to like push her into the boiling pot. And in the remake, it took me for flippin' ever, because she kept seeing me before I get to her over and over and over again. But in the original, I was just like, whoop, there she goes, bye.
Bye. Yeah, that's a good point, and that reminds me to mention to listeners too, if any of this whips you up into playing the SCI remake, which I think has secretly become our goal through these episodes, is to kind of encourage you guys to play the remakes, because they're better than we all think, I guess. New Rising Sun has a patch for the SCI version, and I highly suggest anybody playing it uses the patch. Now, with Scum being at like what 2.8.1 these days, like I'm not sure to the degree of which Scum has fixed most of this like in-house, because that's kind of their thing, right? Just improving quality of gameplay. And I know they've integrated a lot of New Rising Sun's patches, so they might already have done that, I guess is what I'm saying. But point is, you can get, well, for Adam, from your playthrough, if you were struggling with it, it sounds like maybe they haven't. Or were you in DOSBox? You weren't in DOSBox.
No, I was using Scum.
Right, you were in Scum. So maybe, I guess they haven't. Point is, go to Sierra Help and grab the New Rising Sun patch, and that'll fix all the timing issues.
Oh, good.
If you're going to play it, yeah.
Thanks for telling me now.
Yeah, of course, it got you. Okay, so we've got the we've got the enchanted shield from the leprechauns. There's an adorable animation is my only note here. Is the little staff thing, because I was going to show you that, but you showed me it. So that's how much the staff jig
it was
means
so
to us.
good. I had to it needed to be shared.
Oh my god, you guys, it was so good.
It was so good.
Sorry. Man, I'm even just realizing now there's a remake of the AGD VGA remake.
Huh. Is there really?
Dude,
what?
there's too many remakes. Like, can we just bury this? They went back and gave it a ton of new art. If you go to their website again, AGD Interactive, go to games, go to King's Quest 1. Man, I'm clicking on no, I'm not. I'm clicking on facts. Where did I find this? Maybe hints? Maybe Easter eggs? All right, this isn't fun for people to listen to anymore. I'm sorry, but there's a really big difference between their version 1.0 and their version 4.0, and the 4.0 art. Because I had mentioned earlier that I watched a playthrough of this. It was all King's Quested out. All right, I watched this one because there's talkie in it, and I'll get to that in a second, because I do have notes there too. But the remake that I didn't see in my watch through is gorgeous. It's really cool looking. They use an example of the witch's room, which is why I'm thinking of this now with the cauldron. And in their version 1.0, it's like it just looks like a VGA version of the cauldron room. But in their remake of the remake, I'm not kidding. This isn't shtick. It's got this like awesome like green glow. Like, it has personality. It has a ton of personality all of a sudden. It goes from just an upscale to something kind of new and interesting while being very obviously the same room. So that's cool. And so, fuck it, while we're on it, the remake, oh my god, that's not helpful, as I've just highlighted. The VGA version has a narrator that just knocks it out of the park. Does such a good, like, it definitely is channeling Gary Owens, but like for the good. Like, that's what I want. I don't want, you just don't need to reinvent it. The dude nailed it. Just do what he did if you're a Sierra remake, and the guy did, and it's just awesome. It's not like like he's trying to sound exactly like him, like a bad, what's the word I'm looking for? Impersonation. It's not like an impersonation. It's just like in the spirit of Gary Owens, and it's really good. It's fully voiced, which made it, which is why I did the watch through version of it, because I could just have it told to me like a 40-minute story, 24-minute story actually, I think was the watch through. But it's got, classically, if you don't know, Josh Mandel reprises the role of King Graham for the AGD VGA remake, which is just so charming. I love that he did that. Basically, that's just so cool. And other than that, it's in the beginning of the VGA remake. I can't hand this off to you, damn it. So I'm stuck just seeing this through. But in the because it's the VGA, in the menu in the beginning of the VGA version, you can choose to play it with or without dead ends, which is so cool. And just a ton of extra code that they must have had to have done. Like everything's got to be offered if this, if they selected that, else do this. Like, man, I respect the amount of effort that went into that alone. Because you could forgive them for just making it to where there's no dead ends. Like we could forgive the remake for, not even forgive it. Like that's almost the point of an upscaled fan remake is to get rid of all the bullshit. Which they did, but they still offer you like the authentic experience through their graphics, and just kudos to them. It's just awesome, so nerdy and so cool.
Yeah, they did a great job. I mean, there's a lot of like passion and respect paid backwards with remakes like this, because these are, I mean, it's all passion projects. You can literally go and download this stuff. It's free.
Yeah, exactly. Definitely go check it out. I don't know. I guess we could we'll say, all right, we'll save that for the end. I'll save it for the end if I remember. If not, it'll just never have been said. We'll all wonder. Okay, anyway, let's move on to the chest of gold, shall we?
Yeah, next you're supposed to do a bunch of stuff. You said we were supposed to get gold next, but to do gold, we got to go talk to the gnome. And that's like one of the most infamous puzzles in the game, because it's like Rumpelstiltskin, which a lot of us knew. But then, okay, in the AGI version, it's Rumpelstiltskin backwards, but also with a backwards alphabet, meaning A to Z, B to Y, C to X, etc., all the way to Z to A, which means that R corresponds to I, U, F, M, N, and then you end up with the Ivangrofen, which is obviously what it would be. And then there was like a note, I think it was in the witch's house or somewhere, that says it's best to think backwards sometimes. And that was like think backwards, but like not necessarily backwards with the whole alphabet. So that was kind of wild. But in the SCI remake, you can do just his name backwards. You don't have to do the weird alphabet mashup.
Yes, that is factual and correct. And I would say that the SCI remake version of this puzzle is the way that it should have been. Because it's like it's kind of hard enough for everybody originally, and I think a ton of people, a ton of people on fair grounds eventually figured out Rumpelstiltskin backwards. And then you get that message that you said, Anna, where it's like, saying Anna like there's a third person here. That's weird, right? Fuck that.
There's many other people here.
Right. Yes. Hi, I didn't see you there. Okay. But then, and I was thinking about this too, that Sierra, the one place if they really wanted to stick with, you have to do the whole alphabet backwards and then do that. Like, okay, fine. If I can't talk you out of that, fine. I'm not saying I'm cool with it. I'm just, the metaphorical, if you can't talk them out of it, they want it that way. Then their rejection for at least figuring out Rumpelstiltskin backwards, their rejection should have had a hint, man. Like, I know, honestly, it was kind of merciful of Sierra just to even tell you you're thinking on the right path. Because that actually, I was reminded of that researching for this episode, and it actually took me by surprise for a second. I'm like, wow, they gave you a little bit of help there. But now I can't help but think like that would have been a great time to have just been like even more backwards. Think more backwards. I don't know, just something to help you in whatever direction, because it's like it's very defeatist. But anyway, the SCI.
Never would have gotten it. I never would have gotten that without a hint book. There's no way my brain would have processed the concept, even though I was into codes as a kid and other languages, fake languages, things like that. I never would have got that.
It's too far. It's infamously too far, as a matter of fact. So the takeaway here in the spirit of this episode is the SCI remake handles this puzzle the way it should have always been handled, which is you just spell it backwards.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, we are off to get the chest of gold. This is the one that involves the giant. I guess I like this one the most because I have the most notes about it. I've been just keen to get to it. I was imposing the giant onto the dragon earlier, but this is well, okay, sorry. Rumpelstiltskin gives us the beans. And then we can plant the beanstalk and climb up to the giant.
So much harder to climb it in the AGI version. Oh my goodness.
Thank you. Okay. Because I saw online somebody arguing, it's like an old form from like 2011, arguing that the SCI version of the vines was harder. And I was like,
no, but you have to line up his hands with where you want him to be in the SCI version, not his legs.
Oh, wow. I could see how just that one little thing they would be like, oh, if you just apply that formula, right? That's a really cool point, man. Good way to notice stuff.
Thank you. After like 15 freaking saves on the first one, and I'm just like, that was so frustrating. It was like this one point where you have to make it look like your face has to like literally dip behind one of the vines so that it looks like you're climbing up and through it, but it's like to the like mega mina, whatever you'd call it, tiniest little pixel that you have to be right on the exact spot.
Right. Yeah, I guess I would say the SCI version doesn't make it as easier as you would think.
No, I still did a lot of falling on the SCI version.
You know what they could have used, Anna? They could have used a quick save feature as implemented in the upcoming adventure game, The Phantom Fellows, where you just press...
What a great idea.
I've hear tell of this thing going on. I don't know how to market my game. But we always talk about integrating it into the show, and this is why I don't know how to do it. But I know for real, in the Phantom Fellows, you press F5 to quick save, on top of being able to regular save, and then you press F7 to quick load, which is because in Sierra games F5 was save. But I'm saying this all to say, one, Wishlist and buy my game, and two, that the Vine Beanstalk situation would have been awesome to have a quick save to be able to save scum, because it's like in a Sierra game when you make it up like two single stairs, you want to save scum.
Yeah. Which we didn't even know it was called that. Back then we just said we were stupid if we didn't save. Like back in our day, people would be like, "Oh my gosh, you didn't save," if you actually had friends that played them. Nowadays they're like, you need to save. It's like gambling at the casino or something in one of those games. You had to save or you just lose all your money.
Yes, and spamming too. I never knew spam as that type of. It was just a meat. It was just a potted meat growing up, and then it became email problems or whatever. Too many emails, spam mail, whatever. I also just recently learned that snail mail is the name now for regular mail.
Oh, it's been that name for decades.
The kids are telling me. Is that...
When I was a little kid, we called it snail mail because my dad was a postman.
Okay, so that's always been around. What was it slow in comparison to? Would be the
maybe it wasn't called that when I was little. Maybe it didn't. I wonder when that term first originated. I bet you I'm oversimplifying.
Well, all this and more some other time. We're definitely... She's going to talk to her dad, you guys, and we're going to tell you what's up with this mail thing.
Oh, it's been around since 1942.
Okay, she just got it from the internet instead.
Yeah, and although it was not common to use emails until the 90s, it was still called that. Ordinary postal service as opposed to other communications. Huh.
So people are just always complaining. That checks out. Actually, immediately checks out, yeah. You're too slow. And compared to what? I don't know. Deliver it faster.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, anyway, back to King's Quest. Now we're climbing the... Oh, we already covered that. And we covered Rumpelstiltskin. I think I'm out of things to say for this part.
It's fine. I'm still hooked on the snail mail thing. It's an interesting...
It's borderline more interesting. Yeah, I get it. I do get it. I will say... While you satiate your thirst for snail mail knowledge, whoa. I will just say that the trees in the VGA version, the AGD VGA version, is gorgeous. Gorgeous. It looks so good.
Yeah, they do love their trees. They did such a good job with it. I agree with you. They're magical. So much depth and dimension. Like you want to climb them.
I did not. No, I did. That's the line.
I wanted to climb them. I wanted to go in them, and some of them.
I wanted to go back inside. I'm like, it is hot out here,
heavenly.
And
like under the willow tree and stuff. It was just.
Dude, that's it though. They are willow trees. Good call. I love a good willow tree, man.
Me too. I love willow trees, and I wonder if a part of that is the magic of these games. But you can go inside a willow tree, and we've got a lot of them in my neighborhood. So they drape. And it's like curtains leading into another world. It's like going underneath one of the giant fir trees that kind of, you're underneath even if the rain's going, and you can even stand up if they're big enough. I love going under trees.
now we see there. I'm on board. I don't want to climb them, but I will walk slowly underneath of them and stand there. That's like the willow trees have like 80s cock rocker hair. You know, like picture Dee Snider and then let that fade into a willow tree. It's seamless.
It is.
Yeah, thank you.
Very GIF-like in my brain.
Right.
So there you go. You get to climb up at the sky into the clouds, and instead of encountering an ogre eating his dinner, you're encountering a giant wandering through the forest, fee-fi fumming as such.
As they do. And then he sleeps.
You just have to wait it out. A lot of this game is just kind of waiting. Like, is it not in the screen? Leave the screen and come back. Try it again. Try it again. Try it again. Try it again. That's kind of what it is.
Yeah, exactly. So you just walk around in too many circles. It is too many circles. It's like 3 too many. Where you're like, I know this is what I'm supposed to do, but is this what I'm supposed to do? Like I feel like I've been walking a lot of circles here. But then he falls asleep. Man, this really is again just identical to the other one. Because one of the claims for the remake is that there is, how would you say? There's more like character. The character interactions are more detailed. With additional dialogue and improve. Well, actually, that spills into something else. But I didn't really get that so much. Did you?
No, it looked a bit fluffed out here and there, but not by a huge amount.
Yeah, I didn't.
It's funny. I've got all these hint books. The official book of King's Quest 6. I've got the King's Quest Companion, which covers just games 1 through 4, which makes sense. The remake wouldn't be in it, but the one that covers up to King's Quest 6. You figure they'd at least mention the remake. In every other book series I have, it even compares a remake and a original somewhere in the book. But these ones are just like, what? It doesn't exist. I don't even know what you're talking about. There's the original, and that's it.
Right.
It's funny.
Well, see, that's exactly why I was fighting with you about the 1983 thing. Because I'm like, I don't believe them. They don't seem competent in like their timelines and like, you know what I mean? I feel like there's always a lot of little errors in Sierra's I don't know, stuff.
Okay, cool. So where this stems from is I've got the King's Quest Collection series big box next to me that has like 10 King's Quest games in one. And it's got King's Quest 1 all the way through to King's Quest 7. It's got Mystery House Wizard and the Princess Mission, Asteroid Time Zone, Lorabo 1, Lorabo 2, Mixed Up Mother Goose Deluxe. And on the very first page, it says the epic adventures of the King's Quest saga, the original King's Quest for the IBM PC Junior, July 1983.
Right. We're trying to pin exactly when it came out. Yeah. Sorry.
Exactly. No, but this is just straight from Sierra merchandise. So I would love it. Wouldn't that be amazing if someone we listen to would just be like, oh, I happen to have a copy that says 1983 on it. Because I've never actually seen a physical copy that says anything other than 1984 or later.
And that's where I became quite unmanageable earlier in my arguments with Anna, where it's just like, no.
He was ready to throw down for sure.
And I even walked upstairs. Several
Imagine
stairs.
this, folks, up the stairs.
I opened up a Tupperware bin. It was a whole thing. And I got out my PC Junior version, the one with the knight on the cover. Like, that scene that infamously happens in King's Quest where you fight a knight with a sword. And anyway, and I sent Anna pictures. So even if she doesn't want to, she can vouch. And it says 1984. And then I got the black box, which is the other 84 release. And that also says 84. And I was born in 83, and I have it in my head, as Anna knows, because it's quite in there, that I don't feel like anything cool happened in 1983, except for maybe a Star Wars, and I don't Star Wars. I'm an Indiana Jones guy. As if it's notoriously one of the two. But anyway, I there's not many things that happened in 83. And I want it to be 83, but I think it's not, because I don't believe Sierra. I've only ever seen it in 84, and their documentation is dodgy. So if anybody knows exactly when it came out, because I could see it being like in development or slated for publication or just some weird technicality, and then didn't actually make it to print, or I don't know what's going on. So please help.
Please help. We here at the CG Podcast need your help to solve this mystery. But yeah, I'm just sitting here with a bunch of books around me. I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm just assuming they do, but that is not guaranteed because, as we all know, the books themselves were never actually written by the people making the game.
You
We're
know,
always contracted.
I don't
out for
appreciate
something,
this
sadly,
passive aggressive tone you're coming. You're like, I'm just sitting around here with a bunch of official books, but you know, fuck me. What do I know? What have books ever taught us?
Well, I didn't hear it that way, but now that you've said it, I guess. I was trying to like discount them. You're like, ha 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 ha.
Oh, it's good shit.
So
I feel like all our side quests have been more interesting than the King's Quest stuff, but I don't. There's not a lot of story here either. King's Quest isn't like a story-based game. It becomes one.
not
Don't
till
get
the
me wrong.
fourth one, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. The fourth one, I would even say 3. They start
little.
hashing that out. They're like, hey, what if, you know, and they give them a little bit of a story, a really immediately dark story in 3. Child labor and slaves and stuff. It's just, yeah, it's heavy stuff. But anyway, let me quickly pull myself out of there before I find something funny I need to say.
It's all right. We said there's a goat in the game, and you get to have him follow you. What else? And he knocked a troll off a bridge. We did this.
Sorry.
It's all right. We did the sky thing. We did the giant thing. I mean, essentially, we've kind of. Once you get these items, the more items you get, the more protection you have from a lot of the bad things that are around you. And then, like towards the end of the game, you're practically invincible without having to worry about fairies charming you and things because you have your magic items.
They Superman. Sorry, I wanted to try that one more time. I didn't nail it. If anybody listening has been around goats, they make that weird noise, and you know what I'm talking about. And I'd love you for knowing what I'm talking about. I love goats. They're so underrated, man. There's a timeline where all the humans on Earth, like goats, became the thing instead of dogs. Because
Goats are great.
Maybe that's a bit of a high bar, but they're really good companions. Goats are dope, man. They are so much fun, and they do this weird thing where they're like, and it sounds kind of exactly like that. I'm not nailing it, but I'm not really like, if you've never been around goats, you're like, dude, they do not make that noise. But I promise you, they kind of do, and it's a lot like that, and it's weird. I don't get it. I had 2 goats named Goggles and Franklin. They used to drink each other's urinations fresh out of the steam. Never mind. But anyway, enough about goats and golden showers and all that kind of stuff. The point here is that this game is okay. And if you play the remake version, it remains pretty okay.
Yeah.
You might even say that the VGA version gets kind of playable. That's so mean. Hold on. That sounds like I'm wrapping up. We still have some loose ends to tie up here. So let's
talk about. I gave you. I gave you a link as well, but I wanted to talk a little bit about the Sega, the Sega system version of this game, Quest for the Crown, because it's different looking.
It's just one bad idea that is now on eBay for $40. It's like, and I have one because it's so cool. It's so weird and cool that it was like one of the first eBay things I ever got, because I'm like, that's just so stupid. I mean, obviously, same with the King's Quest 5 that's on Nintendo. I mean,
I have that one. It's also dumb.
It's also dumb. You get like, I think one. Speaking to Sega one, because you get one save slot. I think it might be more than one, but I don't think so. And to load your save, you have to type in just this whack code, man. It's
Weird.
It's like 25 letters long. I'm not kidding, and it's mostly just like the letter A with like featuring D, guest appearance by C, and it's just like A D A, and it's just that, but it's like a unique code too. And that's, I mean, literally, it takes like 10 minutes to load a game, like for real. Maybe it's like 3 minutes. Minutes are not that long, but anyway, well, it's not fun to look at all.
Nope.
It does look better than the AGI version. Not to, again, nostalgia aside, but King's Quest 1 and 2 are not fun to look at.
Well, okay, what makes them all fun is that they left the debugging commands in most of the versions of King's Quest 1, 2, and 3. So you can go straight in there and with ego and or, as you would call main character in any room, hold the Alt key and the D key. It doesn't do anything. It'll just flick a little thing on the screen. But now you can all of a sudden bring objects to you or teleport to any room. So you can each object in the game has a code number, dagger being 1, say mushroom being 24. So you can switch, or you can get the room numbers, as in the woodcutter's house is room number 24, or 25 puts you at the troll bridge. So anyways, it's kind of fun. You can still mess around within the files. They've left that into most of the versions. It's actually, the information I'm getting is straight out of the official book of King's Quest 3rd edition. So I tried it out and it does work.
I think it's a lot of fun, and I hope you guys out there are doing stuff like that just because it is fun. Like, if you don't know what else to do and you just still want to mess with these games, like, that's obviously when you start heading down, like, SCI companion territory and looking at resources. But debugging is akin to that, I think, where it's like, it's just fun to, like, man, I want to play King's Quest 1 again, but I kind of don't. And it's like, well, then do that. Jump in there and use, Google up the debug codes. The Cutting Room Floor, or tcrf.org, has a lot of that. They're the perfect source for debug codes and room codes. More specifically, like the room codes, like knowing what to do with the debug codes. You can find there, and it's a lot of fun. But I just want to go back to Sega real quick and say a few things. One, like scene for scene, it actually looks kind of a lot like King's Quest. Like, not at all, but exactly. And because it's like it's just everything through a Sega filter, through a console filter, as far as like how they handle dithering, and like it might have even been like how the Japanese were doing things stylistically at the time, like the way they did grass. Like, Sierra would maybe either leave it plain or just like dither the whole ground, and with console stuff or Sega art, let's say, it'd be like just little patches throughout the whole screen. They love patches of grass, well, I guess because it's tile based. That's sorry, maybe that was really obvious. It just dawned on me. That's exactly what's going on there. So it's like, it's like looking at King's Quest AGI put through tiles, and then all the colors are way less saturated. Just like a little less exciting, and then Graham just looks so Sega-like, doesn't he?
He looks like a little kid, like he's, he's like the Kid Icarus sprite without wings or something.
Right, Kid Chameleon. Yeah, but it looks so Sega. Maybe it's the black outline or like the way they drew his hat, but like it just looks very Sega. I don't know how else to put it, and I just keep repeating that, so I'll stop. But it's really on brand, I think, is all I'm trying to say for a Sega thing. Like, you look at the scene, I'm looking at the scene of the leprechauns in the cave, and like it's completely different than the AGI one, but it's not. Like, everything's in the same place that it would be. Like, you know what I mean? The king on the throne is like exactly in that place on the right-hand side, and the little tunnel exit is exactly where it would have been on the left-hand side, but it's just Sega'd, the whole thing. So it's look at screenshots and nothing more is my suggestion there.
Highly recommend. That's as far as you take it.
Yeah. You don't even need like YouTube footage. It's not. There's not much going on. It was a mistake.
This was a mistake.
Exactly. So we got the AGI. There's the PC booter version. We kind of covered that in the very beginning of the episode, like the original. A couple of random notes I have is because I either look straight up. I think I said this earlier, but I also think we cut that part out. So, or future me will have cut that part out. So I just need to say that okay, I'll tie this into a larger point in just a second, because I've just been struck with inspiration and direction. Let's keep our expectations a lot lower than that sound. But like the little snake guy, the more of a sea monster, is adorable, and he's just. And if I said this earlier, I'm sorry. I'm definitely not gonna cut this out, because I've already got several edits to make. And it's fun fact for the listeners, it's Monday. We recorded this yesterday, man. We were running behind, and that's my bad. But anyway, the sea snake is adorable, and every now and then he pokes his head out of the water and does this like adorable toothy grin, and it's just so cute. Dude, I love it. It's so cute. And Graham's jump animation is a lot of fun. I tried to really quickly, in case I already said this, I had them jump in front of the reflection in the water, thinking that maybe they didn't account for that, but they did. And yeah, okay. So I have a point I want to make, but before I do that, I hand the floor back to you in case there's like some loose ends that you want to mention.
This was a game that I never really wanted to play because it intimidated me in the beginning, and I didn't know about the 1990 remake. It seems like, and you know what, even going online on YouTube, there's like 3 different versions of the 1990 remake being played, and nobody's really into that one, it appears.
Right.
So the first time I ever played through King's Quest 1 was with Korish's video game guide, 3rd edition, which there's no 2nd edition or 1st edition. They don't even appear to exist. There's no reference of them online. I have the 3rd edition. They're somewhat incomplete, and they're all in big blocks of text. So like this book is fat, like PHAT. It is a big book. And
that might actually be the regular fat. Sorry.
A little bit of both, I guess. But it's like each game is all one solid paragraph. So if you have a game that's really long and like 3 pages long, all of them are with a paragraph. So I'd have to play it with a sticky note, and I'd put it underneath whatever line I was working on, so I wasn't constantly losing where it was, because it moves so fast, but it would guide you wrong sometimes. Like it would say, turn left and pick up the log, but it's like you have to go to the screen to the right. And it did that. Like, and even it's the one that for Gold Rush, it's like, yeah, if you take the Panama away, I don't actually know how to do that, but I bet it's tricky, huh? Should fix that. Anyways, it like literally just says, I have an idea. Yourself, because I'm not sure, but it came out way back when. Like this book came out in like 1990 or something, or 1992, so it wasn't a super new book. But anyways, my point being, I was intimidated by it. I used the book to play it. The first game in the King's Quest series that didn't intimidate me was King's Quest 4. So 1 through 3 are like these gray land of games I played with a walkthrough so many times that now I can play it without a walkthrough, but I didn't learn any of it naturally.
Naturally. I like that. Right. Yeah, I mostly like the way you started that whole thing. You're like, I didn't want to play these games. It seems we've committed ourselves to some sort of comparison series, I'm told, and I have to. But
it was my freaking idea to do this too. I'm like, hey, Paul, let's do that King's Quest comparison episode we were talking about so frequently before. And you're like, oh, okay. And then we're both like, hang on, dude, I think that means we have to like play the game and potentially more than once, like ASAP. And you're like, oh, right. Yeah, no, that's fine.
The one with 20 remakes. Okay. Well, okay, here's my little spiel I want to say. And then when we're done, this is more of like a reminder to future us. Let's give our recap and suggestions on actually which one of these to play and all that fun stuff. But I will say before that the strongest argument that I found as far as being against the remake, right? Because I accidentally like to end these episodes by defending the remake. In other words, because it's they get just like all the ones that came before this when we did the Police Quest and the Space Quest episodes, possibly the Larry one too. The remakes are none of them have any fans. It seems like so with this one I was looking at the specific criticisms, and most of them were like just self-aware, hey, I'm nostalgic for the original and this one isn't different enough or whatever enough to overpower that nostalgic feeling I get from looking at the screens, to which fair enough. And my point always comes down to not trying to say the remake's ever better, but just that it's worth a playthrough. Like if you listen to this podcast, you probably really love these games. So next time you feel like the itch, like if this is like your like nostalgic game, which I'm sure it is for many of you, then like, next time you get the itch to like run through King's Quest, if you haven't gone through the remake, go through it because it's really good. So anyway, back to the biggest criticism I see for this one is that they felt like it made King's Quest more like goofy in a bad way. And that was maybe one of the strongest arguments too, because it reminds me of the King's Quest argument that I used to have with Rick was our old co-host, where he liked how the original, the first two King's Quests were kind of like a little bit dark in tone and weren't like overtly comedies. Like they were funny, but they also had like a darkness to them. And King's Quest, what I was seeing in the comment section was people felt the same way about the original AGI King's Quest. There was a kind of a darker element to some of it, like as far as just, you know, somber tone throughout the kingdom, and, you know, meeting terrible people that want to kill you was treated with, I guess you could say, the respect that might deserve, if, you know, if they're really evil. And anyway, a lot of people were like, really were almost angry about little things like, there's like a graham cracker gag in this game. There's if you fall off the clouds, there's a cardboard cutout, or a cutout of Graham's body shape that he falls
so
through.
Funny.
I loved it, right? Very Looney Tunes, you know, like Wile E. Coyote kind of stuff. And like that's what the diehards, or the people like that don't like this publicly and vocally don't like this, would say that they don't like the, and fair enough, man. I'm not trying to say they're wrong or that they should change their mind based on my weak argument. Not at all. I'm just trying to give the devil's advocate to that, to say that my takeaway from playing these two games was that Sierra kind of found out who they were in between the AGI and the SCI. And obviously that never ends. Like, I'm sure they kept finding out who they were, but they started to figure out their voice. Like, and you got to imagine with the AGI version, you're just like carving out the first graphic adventure ever. Like, of course, it's not going to come with the personality that you desire or want to reflect on it. But by 1990, they started to have found a way. And I would say it's really consistent of Sierra to have this goofiness, to have that cardboard cutout, to have like some of the faces that Graham makes when he dies in this game, like with the big bulging eyes, which they used a lot, and I get why it's kind of never stopped being funny throughout my gameplay. But anyway, the point being is, like, some of the more cartoony aspects that show themselves in the remake, it's on brand for Sierra. It's not like wildly out of place. Like, well, now King Graham's just goofy, and it's like, well, I mean, Sierra's pretty goofy. Like that was kind of their thing. Like they really liked the look at, like in King's Quest, I think 6, when you're falling off the Towers of Logic or whatever, the copyright puzzle. He like looks at the camera and waves goodbye. Like, that's pretty Sierra, man. So I guess my big preachy spiel is to say that while the SCI companion was always going to upset anybody who's in love with the first one, because that's how that stuff is. Like, nobody's ever going to take your childhood thing and somehow make it better without pissing you off, because it's like, yeah, you love its faults too. So like, nothing's ever going to do that. But I will just say, as far as like in defense of it, that it doesn't become wildly out of brand if you put it through the filter of like, it's actually just very Sierra now. Like it has a voice. It's not just, King's Quest 1, which probably has the least personality of most of the Sierra games, because it's so old in its defense. And this just brings like a little bit of personality to it. And that personality that it brings is that goofy Sierra shit that was, especially in this era, like when Space Quest was just going from Space Quest to Roger Wilco. Like, they started really, maybe that's even the next evolution of this, where they start to really lean into like who they are. But anyway, I thought it was kind of a nice little notion, and might make people, or help people give it a sort of a chance, where it's like, it's just, they're just taking their thing and running it through, like, who they are. I've gone on too long about this. I'm all done.
No, I mean, I have points on it too. The little animations that they did, that they were so well known for, that we talked about in games like King's Quest 6, I can see the beginnings of them playing around with that idea more in this remake. For sure. Like, just the little things, the way the Graham does his little movements or grabs things. It's not like just flash on the screen. They're actually working their way towards that idea. So yeah, it was a good groundbreaker for sure, even if it wasn't necessarily in the fancy or hand painted style as some of the other things of its time.
Right. Exactly. And the other, one of the other things I'm noticing from doing this series is I really like how the remake is a counterpart to the one that they're currently working on. Space Quest 1 is probably the strongest in that. No, they kind of all are, because Space Quest 1 is a lot like Space Quest 4, like in its like just overall vibe. Like, you could just tell they were being made at the same time, and the same with Police Quest. Yeah, Yeah, and Larry too. Larry's almost exactly like 5, like where they leaned into that cartoon style. And anyway, this one's unique in the sense where it's like it's almost gives you like a prototype King's Quest V vibe more than King's Quest 4. Because this was probably developed just a little after 4 and alongside of 5, or I don't know. It's hard to see. Yeah, probably maybe alongside. It's really hard to say because again, 5 was in the new engine and was actually point and click.
Yeah, because 4 came out in 1998. 5 came out in November of 1996. Wasn't out till 92.
Wait, when did 4 come out?
4 came out September of 88.
Okay, so well before this, right? And that makes sense. I mean, even just like Graham's uniform, like his sprite, like it's very close to the it's an EGA version of the 5 sprite, of the King's Quest 5 sprite, and it has I can't say better than it looks like a prototype of King's Quest 5, which is cool. And SCI 0 just absolutely rules. It's such a cool, weird little period in Sierra's time where. Yeah, and it was almost a pubescent kind of era for them where the graphics, everything was improving, but there was still text box. And all right. So what would you recommend to people to play? Looking at let's bring in all 3 versions, the AGI, SCI, and VGA.
Well, that depends. I mean, I'd obviously say, do you want to type or do you want to point and click? Unless there's a version of the remake that doesn't include typing, because there's just so many random versions of it. But I mean, if they're like, oh, I don't mind throwing down some typing, then I'd recommend the Sierra remake. Well,
okay. Maybe let's back up to just the Sierra ones real quick. What would you recommend between the 2 of those?
Oh, the
putting
remake,
all the
for sure. Oh, yeah. 100%. It's beautiful. It is gorgeous. Yeah, they did such a great job with the graphics on that. And again, so reminiscent of so many of my favorite games of the time.
It's hard to argue against it, right? Because it's, again, if you don't have nostalgia for it, like I feel like this is like we're almost inherently pissing people off that are listening. Like, no way, the first one. And it's like, but, if you didn't grow up with the first one, like Anna and I didn't, and you're presented these 2, then surely you understand where we're coming from under those circumstances, where it's like the first 2 King's Quest were tough to look at, man. King's Quest 3 is one of my favorite looking games, period, ever. It's got that McNeil Brothers like Gold Rush vibe to it. They were like they'd mastered AGI like by that point. That specific, I should say, that resolution. It's such a good looking game. So I love the way King's Quest 3 looks like. Because I know I can come across as like, a little bit of a dick towards King's Quest to our listeners, and so to which I apologize and have overstated in the past, because I really do like 4 and a bit of 5 and 6 too. But anyway, point being, it's hard to argue against the remake because it's kind of the same exact experience, but it's just better looking, like a lot better looking. And if you have nostalgia for the original, then there's no talking you out of that anyway. So stalemate. Right. Okay, so then then you already kind of said, like, putting the Sierra remake against the VGA one is more of a matter of taste when it comes to partial stuff, so I wouldn't even know what to say there.
Like, do you like pixels or not? Do you want to type or not? Those are kind of your big 2. And then it's like, well, I like pixels, but I don't want to type. Then I'll be like, well, then you got to weigh your options out.
I'm really torn because I part of me wants to just lean into recommending VGA so people go, support the indie sort of side of things or whatever. I mean, even though, it's been a long time now and blah, blah, blah. But the other part of me is like, I can't help but feel almost certain that most people just have not played the remake once again. Yeah. And I really want them to. This one it's really good looking. Like it's I think these late stage EGA graphic games are all pretty just fun to look at because they're really comfortable in their zone now. Like they had it pretty locked down, and it's fun to see. Like it looks really good. So I'm gonna go with, out of the 3, I'm going to say play the Sierra remake.
Right. Yep. I would say so.
Sweet. I think we're done.
I think that's it. Well, then I'm going to do my usual spiels, other than to say that the fellows.com has had a redesigned website. It links to merch, it links to demos, it links to all the things that are relevant to its potentially soon to be announced something might come out at some point. I think we've been talking about 2024, and we'll go from there. So get out there, check it out.
And we'll announce that probably next episode. The release date. Yeah.
Yeah, that's coming up there. So, www.thephantomfellows.com, and it'll take you to all the socials and everywhere else you need to go. Otherwise, take yourself to patreon.com, Classic Gamers Guild. I just want to take 1 second to say thank you. Brian, thank you very much for being a $10 True Believer, as well as Gareth, Mark Fillion, Michael Council, and Tim Ellis. You guys, we really appreciate you making the show happen for us. I mean, yeah, I get it. We make it happen by doing the talking and stuff, but you also and everybody else continues to make it happen by supporting the show, sending us comments, sending us emails, and showing us that people out there really do actually want to talk about adventure games and classic adventure games at that. So that's pretty important. Did you have anything else? No, you don't have anything else. You're done.
It would have been nice, though, right? I could have filled that little gap for you.
You could have. Well, my pages are loading slow. But yeah, hopefully you had a chance to check out our last episode. That was the Enduring Appeal of Pixel Art featuring Tom Hardwidge. And it was a great fun. It was a really good conversation. And if you liked that conversation and want to hear more of it, Paul and Tom will both be at the Pixel Art panel at the Adventure Game Hotspot Fan Fair, where they will be chatting about much more in depth than what they talked about on the episode, or they'll reference the episode and say, hey, that's a good idea, and use it as a talking point. I'm not sure.
It's going to be a lot of that episode, just said again. Yeah.
So outside of that, yeah, check us out. We're a group on Facebook, Classic Gamers Guild, and on Twitter at CGG Podcast or at the Phantom Fellows. Send us your words, mail at classicgamersguild.com. You can also find us on Instagram and YouTube under the same name. We've got some episodes out there in various places, and we are trying to recoup listeners lost through the losing of the Google Podcasts. And I've noticed some of you have come back. That is great. Thank you so much. And comment, like,
share,
push
tell
button,
your friends,
share,
leave us a review,
retweet, do all the things that'll bring us back up in the algorithms and get it into more people's ear holes, computer screens, Google speakers, etc.
It's ultimately the ear hole, so it doesn't matter where it's. Sorry, as pedantic and unnecessary. But that's what we do here at the Classic Gamers Guild podcast. We talk pedantically and unnecessarily. Did I lose you? You're that kind of silent that tells me you're just gone. I'm gonna. Oh shit! Jesus Christ! You're still there. Just peed a little. Okay. Oh my God.
Waiting for you to say the thing.
Oh, we're done. Because we're done. I get it. Okay. Don't. Please. Wait. Where's my can? Hold on. I'm getting the can for this. It's been a week or two, an episode or two. Look. Just don't do a murder. Right, that's a great point. Right.
Like that. Yeah.